From soggy slices and weird toppings to failed franchise experiments, these pizza joints were once the in thing, but they sadly didn't stand the test of time. Whether you remember these places from your childhood or you're hearing about them for the first time, just buckle your seatbelts. It's time for us to take a look back on 20 of the worst pizza restaurants from the 70s and 80s that faded into history.
Godfather's Pizza!
1. Godfather's Pizza. Our first pizza chain today was founded back in 1973. The location was Omaha, Nebraska. Greg Johnson had the original idea, but sold both the name and pizza parlor to Willie Thyssen in 1974. With Thyssen in the driver's seat, things began to move very quickly. The chain grew rapidly and was named the fastest-growing franchise by the National Restaurant Association from 1977 to 79. At its peak, Godfather's Pizza had almost 1,000 locations across America. Their advertising, too, was pretty peak. Many of the TV commercials they ran had a lot of imagery from the famous The Godfather movies. Also, their restaurants had this gray, moody vibe that just felt like something out of the movies, too. Keeping up with the Godfather theme, their TV advertisement slogan was, "A pizza you can't refuse." But it wasn't just the ads that made people keep coming back. The pizza was delicious, made with generous toppings of cheese and even vegetables. It was like a whole meal. There were also a wide variety of breadsticks, chips, cookies, and pastas. Customers also had a wide range of their crusts to pick from: original, golden, mozza-loaded, and thin. Sadly, changing tastes have made their influence wane in recent years, and the sad story of their fall-off is pretty similar to this next pizza line.
Pistol Pete's Pizza! Everybody loves it!
2. Pistol Pete's Pizza. When the first Pistol Pete's Pizza opened in 1974, it was supposed to be your regular pizza restaurant. You know, the regular, just pizza, and a few other drinks. Over time, however, they became almost a carbon copy of Chuck E. Cheese, with lots of games and entertainment. Just like Chuck E. Cheese, it was the perfect fun dining experience, making it a regular choice for birthdays and other family outings. The only difference? The games here were mainly for teenagers, not like the ones at Chuck E. Cheese, which were being mainly created for younger children. But the food was actually something everyone could enjoy. There was a wide variety of pizzas, as well as special pies. And pizza wasn't the only thing they sold here. Pasta dishes, sandwiches, and even salads. You just couldn't go there and not order something. Things were going on well until 1995, when Pistol Pete's was acquired by Peter Piper Pizza, who were looking to incorporate some of its successful elements into their own brand. For most people, that looked like great business, but it was really just the beginning of the end for this pizza chain. Today, Pistol Pete's is a shadow of itself. Only those of us who had our birthdays with remember anything about Pistol Pete's. 3. Noble Roman's Pizza. The success of this next pizza line was actually from another pizza shop's failure. In 1969, Stephen Hughes and Gary Nackstedt bought a failing pizza shop near Indiana University and officially made it a company in 1972. Hughes was a business school graduate from the business school at Indiana University in Bloomington before taking a sales job in 1965 with Ransburg Corp. Noble Roman's was just him trying to be his own boss, so he tried it out. They were close to a campus, and so the students just flocked there to spend their money on their pizza. And could you blame them? The pizza was always made with high-quality fresh ingredients, avoiding fillers in meats and cheeses. And their pizza crusts? They were made from specially milled high-protein flour and flavorful cornmeal, which set them apart from competitors. The quality was there, and it was consistent, so their growth was only natural. As the population of the college town swelled with increasing numbers of students, sales of Noble Roman's unique pizzas surged. Throughout the 70s and 80s, Noble Roman's took their business even beyond Indiana, opening new locations in Ohio and other states. By the mid-2000s, they had reached over 1,000 locations. Unfortunately, the company faced challenges leading to a decline in locations and numerous lawsuits from franchisees due to operational issues. Like Noble Roman's, our next pizza chain was pretty popular with students before it got to a wider audience. 4. Artista Pizza. Let the food experts say all they want, students will always want pizza. It's tasty, it's a snack, and it's a food. It just makes sense. And whenever there's good pizza near a student community, yeah, business is gonna move well. But this next pizza wasn't exactly close to the students. In fact, University of New Orleans students had a pizza place close to them, but they wouldn't stop there. Instead, many of them preferred making the run to Artista Pizza a little ways outside of their school. Throughout the 70s and 80s, this pizzeria was a go-to spot for students and even regular locals, and they were probably justified. The pizza was terrific. You were sure to get served pizza that had been made with generous toppings and flavorful crusts. There were different options too: classic cheese, pepperoni, and even some Italian-American staples. It was the perfect place to grab a bite when preparing for overnight studying, or just something to fill your tummy after a stressful class. Sadly, Artista Pizza faced some ugly challenges. Competition increased, and suddenly people didn't really want their pizza anymore, so they lost customers. They just fizzled out. Next, we go to Washington for a pizza that was perfect for students.
Better taste and real value, there's only one place to call: Pizza Haven.
5 Pizza Haven. Ordering food is always great, at least when done right. You don't have to cook, just tap a few buttons, and your meal's ready. It's just so easy, probably why we're always ordering food. This was the main factor that drove Pizza Haven's growth in the 70s. Founded in 1958, Ron Bean's company was one of the first companies to make dial-a-pizza really popular. Their positioning, too, was strategic. Its first location was in the University District, Seattle, near the University of Washington. Overworked students would just call from their rooms and get good pizza delivered to them. Pretty convenient, if you ask me. Soon, Pizza Haven had grown into a chain of 42 restaurants throughout the Pacific Northwest and California. Business was so good that they even had some branches overseas in countries like Russia, Poland, and even the Middle East. Sadly, things went south by the late 1990s. It became harder for them to cope with the ever-increasing competition from better-funded national chains. Also, they faced leasing difficulties at some mall locations, and eventually made what Bean describes in hindsight as several bad decisions. All of these factors, and a missed tax payment, combined to push Pizza Haven into filing for Chapter 7 bankruptcy in 1998. The remaining stores were shuttered, except for the Pizza Haven and Bean Pod restaurants in Seattle Center House. But let's move away from campuses a bit and talk about some families who turned their love for pizza into a full-time business. 6 Pizza Inn. Speaking of a family business, Pizza Inn was founded in 1958 by 2 Texas brothers, F.J. Joe Spillman and R.L. Spillman. Soon, students from the Southern Methodist University campus just opposite it began coming in regularly to get pizza. Its warm, welcoming ambiance invited many people, even adults. The innovative menu items offered by Pizza Inn were popular among customers. Everyone just loved their original thin-crust pizza. Plus, there was the pizza buffet concept they had in the late 60s. And that wasn't even all of it. Some of their other special pizzas were the taco pizza they introduced in 1979 and the Pizzard, a dessert pizza they launched in 1986. By the 90s, too, they struck the market with their hallmark bacon cheeseburger pizza. But it was their crispy, crackery, signature tangy sauce that had kept people around in the earlier glory days. The company saw huge growth between the 70s and 80s and even had an endorsement deal with the famous Von Erich family at the time, with Carrie Von Erich, Kevin Von Erich, and Mike Von Erich appearing in a series of televised commercials. Pizza Inn was so big that at some point they had nearly 800 different locations. Sadly, they're not so popular anymore. Serious debts forced them to file for bankruptcy by 1989, come out of it in 1991, but eventually have to get traded in 1994. 7 Sparrow. Another family business, Sparrow was founded in 1956 by Gennaro Sparrow and Carmela Sparrow. They'd come to America from Italy with their 3 sons, Joseph, Mario, and Anthony. In the same year, the family opened their first Salumeria, or an Italian grocery store, at 1701 65th Street and 17th Avenue in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, New York. It quickly became popular for its fresh food and Italian fare. Everyone loved the sit-down service too. You could actually go there and have a meal, not just order food at the counter. As the 70s wore on, Sparrow's didn't. Instead, they went on to open 14 more New York locations, and they kept the homeliness in everything they did. All the food that they served was made from their original Bensonhurst location, and Carmela even continued to make the cheesecake herself. It just made customers feel at home. Unfortunately, trouble started to pile up challenges for Sparrow in the 2000s. They had a spot at the World Trade Center, but it was bombed during the 9/11 attacks. Eventually, the company had to file for bankruptcy in 2014. However, in 2011, the company was ranked 15th in foreign sales among US-based quick-serve and fast casual companies by QSR magazine. 3 years earlier, in 2008, Sparrow was rated the #1 quick-service restaurant in the Italian segment by Entrepreneur magazine. But diners and critics kept criticizing the quality of the food. They felt it was because of the bankruptcies. Since then, the company has tried to update its menu and improve food quality, but it's just not the same anymore. 8. Chi-Chi's Pizza. After leaving his Gary, Indiana home, Frank Paul McColas came to Panorama City, California to establish Chi-Chi's Pizza in January 1958. He'd been deeply inspired by the times he'd spent with his father, who ran many Italian restaurants and nightclubs in the Gary and South Bend areas. The pizza chain's name, Chi-Chi's, was inspired by Paul's father. He named it that because he wanted to make sure people pronounced the name properly, so he spelled it phonetically. When they first opened, their menu highlighted handmade dough and fresh sauces prepared daily. And as time went on, the brand became popular for its family-friendly atmosphere and quality food. And it wasn't long before the chain started expanding. From the San Fernando Valley, McColas opened Chi-Chi's branches in Saugus and Simi Valley in 1967, and another in Northridge in 1973. The final Chi-Chi's branch and the second Santa Clarita Valley location opened in the year 2000. They were also popular for their wide variety of pizzas, including specialty pies and traditional options. The restaurant also offered fried chicken, despite it being an unexpected choice for an Italian restaurant. They're still in operation today, but it's a lot less than what it used to be. Changing consumer tastes and their over-reliance on old methods have seen Chi-Chi's Pizza take a back seat in today's pizza race.
Happy Joe's at 2 locations in Muscatine.
9. Happy Joe's Pizza. Your bummy boss shouldn't bother you. At least that's what this next pizza chain showed us. It all started in 1972. Lawrence Joseph Happy Joe Whitty had been reprimanded for throwing a child a birthday party while working at Shakey's Pizza. So he just thought, screw my bummy boss, I'll make my own pizza. And that's what he did. Happy Joe's Pizza was born in Bettendorf, Iowa. Their main selling points were the great food and also the exciting yet calm, homely environment. They were a popular spot for birthdays, and as their fame for good parties spread, so did their taco pizza, which was a pretty new invention at the time. They even claimed to be the first pizza place to offer taco pizza, but nah, we'll just take that with a pinch of salt. At least we can be sure they had an ice cream-infused yogurt they called yogurt. Patrons liked the pizza, but over time, their tastes began to change. And now, Happy Joe's is no longer as big as it used to be.
Straw Hat Pizza sure is good looking. But hey, look here, there's something else cooking.
10 Straw Hat Pizza was founded on July 10, 1959 by Charlie Olson and Bill Henderlong. Both of them had already been in the pizza business, working as employees for Me and Ed's, but they were convinced they could do something better. So they opened their first Straw Hat restaurant in 1960 in San Leandro, California. The name, Straw Hat, actually comes from the hats worn by employees who worked at other pizzerias in California at the time. It was their way of creating a special brand for themselves. Straw Hat Pizza was lighter and crispier than most of the other pizza crusts of its time, and that really contributed to its California-style pizza reputation. Some of their special flavors included veggie pizza, oven barbecue pizza, and even some special chicken pizzas such as Aloha and lemon pepper. The environment, too, was family-friendly, with special offerings such as Charlie Horse, a free kids ride. The restaurant mainly operated as a dine-in restaurant, but occasionally offered some takeouts. People loved the pizza and customer service, and at the company's peak, it had over 200 outlets. But as pizza chains like Domino's, Pizza Hut, and Papa John's started to expand, it became more difficult for a smaller business like Straw Hat Pizza to stay afloat. If Straw Hat Pizza were a bit laid back in their attempts to make pizza fun for kids, this next pizza chain went all the way to make it happen.
Pizza Time Theater presents the most incredible pizza place in the world!
11 Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza Time Theater. We're always talking about the need for a family entertainment center, but Nolan Bushnell was actually the first to do it when he made the Pizza Time Theater in 1977. It's been called many names, Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza, and even Chuck E. Cheese's, but the one that has stuck the most was Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza Time Theater. Before this time, Bushnell had already made the popular video game, Atari, so he was excited by the idea of bringing video games from just adult settings to kid-friendly environments. It worked. Kids loved to go there for the good food, and usually even better vibes. The chain's name comes from their iconic mascot, Chuck E. Cheese himself. The very first Pizza Time Theater spot opened in San Jose, California, as Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza Time Theater. It was actually the first restaurant to mix food with arcade games and animated shows, paving the way for the whole family entertainment center concept. At every location, You would find arcade games, amusement rides, and musical shows, plus a menu full of pizza and other exciting bites. Back in the day, they were famous for things like ball pits, crawl tubes, and animatronic performances. Unfortunately, as video games like Nintendo grew in popularity, Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza Time Theater began to leave the scene. People just couldn't be bothered. 12 Showbiz Pizza. This next restaurant mixed good food with good vibes. Showbiz Pizza, or Showbiz Pizza Place, as it was sometimes called, was one of the restaurants that profited from the rise in popularity of video games in the 70s and 80s. It was established on March 3, 1980, in Kansas City, Missouri, and featured a unique blend of pizza, arcade games, and animatronic entertainment. Some people might have looked at its founder, Robert L. Brock, a bit funny. He was with Nolan Bushnell, partnering to run Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza Time Theater. And things were going well, but Brock left. He was worried that Bushnell wasn't doing enough to stay ahead of the growing competition in the animatronic space. His risky move paid off, and by September 1981, there were 48 company-owned outlets and 42 franchises of Showbiz Pizza. And things went on like that. The pizza chain just kept on growing, especially since there was a growing trend of arcade gaming and family entertainment. Then, in 1984, Pizza Time Theater had to file for bankruptcy, and so Showbiz snatched it up. Soon, though, all the Showbiz outlets were renamed to fit in with Pizza Time, in a bid to unify the two companies. But all that peace talking didn't really get them anywhere. You hardly hear of either of the two companies today, and it's almost the same unfortunate story for this next one. 13 Mr. Gatti's Pizza. This next pizza place was started by James R. Urey, a retired Air Force lieutenant colonel. He decided that he was bored of sitting around at home doing nothing, so he tried his hands at pizza. In 1964, he opened a pizza and hamburger restaurant in his hometown of Stephenville, Texas. And with the experience he'd gained from this venture, he and his wife left for Austin. There, he opened another pizza restaurant and named it The Pizza Place. But the name was a bit too generic, so he ran a small poll, and his wife's maiden name, Gatti, won by a long stretch. And so, the pizza place was renamed Mr. Gatti's Pizza. The pizza was delicious. Their sauce, made from freshly harvested tomatoes, was to die for, and the toppings, too, were made from smoked provolone cheese. So it was only natural that people loved to stop by and grab a quick bite on the way to wherever they were going. By the 70s, Mr. Gatti's was already very popular. Investors came and bought the chain, expanding it far beyond Texas. In the 80s, they'd added game rooms and buffet bars, enhancing the family dining experience and drawing in more customers. Unfortunately, it's not so popular anymore. Time has passed, and a lot of the incessant changes in ownership of Gatti's Pizza has badly affected the company's growth.
So stop in today. Round Table, the last honest pizza.
14 Round Table Pizza. After serving in the U.S. Navy for 4 years, high school dropout, William R. Larson went around working different jobs. But nothing really stuck, so he decided to start his own pizza parlor. He opened it in late December 1959 in Menlo, California, and named it Round Table Pizza after the round redwood tables he and his father constructed when he was younger. The pizza chain opened with a focus on creating a welcoming atmosphere where families could enjoy great pizza together, hence those big round tables. It was the perfect place to relax and ease into a tasty pizza after a Little League game. This pizza chain offered dine-in, takeout, and even delivery services, so there was something for everyone, especially tired youngsters who were returning from stressful tryouts. By 1978, there were more than 200 Round Table Pizza branches across America, but things didn't stay that way for long. In 2011, Round Table Pizza had to file for bankruptcy, and although the chain emerged from bankruptcy that same year, things just haven't been the same ever since. This next one, too, is another success story gone wrong.
You're something else than Shakey's, the greatest.
15 Shakey's Pizza Parlor. The first franchise pizza line in America actually has some interesting history. It was founded in 1954 by Sherwood Shaky Johnson and Ed Plummer in Sacramento, California. Johnson had gotten his quirky nickname due to the nerve damage he'd sustained from a malaria bout during World War II. A lot of people might have let this hold them back, but not Shaky. He instead decided to name his new business Shakey's, On the first weekend, the pizza ovens weren't even ready yet, so they had to serve the customers beer. Then Shaky took the profits from the beer to buy pizza ingredients for the next Monday. Talk about a rocky start. But after that, business went well. Shaky had live jazz bands come and play in the pizza parlor, adding to the experience for many patrons. This unique combination of live music and pizza made Shaky's a local sensation, contributing to the revival of jazz in Sacramento. Soon, Shaky's was popular outside Sacramento, not just for the pizza, but for the music too. But all the good jazzy vibes couldn't save them from what was coming. They'd changed ownership too many times, so decision-making was messy, and customer choices were changing too quickly for a business who were over-reliant on the pizza and trumpets. They've fizzled out of the scene now. Most people just remember the good music faintly. 16 Pietro's Pizza. Pietro's Pizza was another popular chain that originated in the Pacific Northwest. It was founded by Norm Cohn in 1957 in Longview, Washington. He was able to really grow the pizza restaurant in the 70s before selling it to the Campbell Soup Company. With more funding, they grew Pietro's even further, adding about 60 locations in Oregon and Washington before selling it again in the late 1980s. Like many of the other pizza parlors of its time, Pietro's Pizza was popular for its family atmosphere. The large tables and open spaces attracted families during birthdays. Schools would even come there for school events. Their buffet options, too, allowed families to enjoy a variety of pizzas and salads. Everyone loved to eat at Pietro's Pizza. At their peak, there were almost 80 restaurants in all of America. Sadly, by the 90s, all of that changed. After being sold to a group of investors, the company could no longer cope with competition with the bigger brands around and eventually had to file for bankruptcy in 1994. Ownership changed hands a couple more times, but little could be done to revive this once thriving business. Today, although they've managed to retain the welcoming vintage interior decor, there aren't even up to 5 running locations all across America. 17 Red Barn. In the 60s, America became a fast food nation, and the Red Barn was one of the Rochester burger joints in front of this sudden burger craze. The company was founded by Don Six, Martin Levine, and Jim Kirst in Springfield, Ohio, 1961. 2 years later, in September 1963, it was bought by Richard O. Kearns Foodcraft and continued to change ownership a couple more times. The chain was fairly successful, with more than 400 outlets across America, Canada, and even Australia. Perhaps as iconic as their pizza was their brand. Each of their restaurants was shaped to look like a barn, and that welcomed patrons and always gave them a feeling of a home away from home. The barn design was patented in 1962. Aside from the pizza, they served a Big Barney, a hamburger that was pretty similar to a modern-day Big Mac. There was also fried chicken, fish sandwiches, and even salad bars, but it was the cheesy, tasty pizza that made people flock through the doors of the restaurants. Their catchy advertising jingle was, "When the hungries hit the Red Barn." Unfortunately, difficult times coupled with rising competition made business difficult. The company struggled to power through the 90s and early 2000s, but afterward, it ran out of gas and just fell flat. 18 Sam's Pizza. It all started when Sammy's Pizza was founded in 1954 in Hibbing, Minnesota, United States, by Sam and Louise Perella. But it didn't just happen that way. After Sam got laid off from the coal mines, the couple had first opened a smaller cafe in Keewatin, Minnesota. Inspired by local veterans' talk about pizza, he decided to go to California to learn from a few pizza places how to make pizza. After a lot of huffing and puffing, Sam was ready. They got together some of the necessary equipment, packed their bags, and headed for a larger space at 107 East Howard in Hibbing, Minnesota. On October 2, 1954, their business began. Since they were basically the first pizza place at Hibbing, it only made sense that many people were ready to visit for a first bite. But that wasn't what made them stay. All their food was handmade, so customers were certain that they'd be getting high-quality pizza. And their spaghetti? That was almost like a taste of heaven. Fresh hand-cut veggies, locally sourced meats, and Wisconsin mozzarella cheese that had been sliced in-house were the special things about this pizzeria. Everything was so organically made that customers just couldn't get enough. It felt like home, but it just wasn't enough. Today, they're just a memory for most people who ate there back in the day. And that's very similar to this next family-owned pizzeria, 19 Dino Pizzeria. It It all started in 1959. Salvatore Pitui, an Italian immigrant from Sardinia, made the brave leap to Canada at the age of 26, leaving behind his family and friends in search of a better life. With limited English and a heart full of dreams, he initially took on construction jobs here and there, but soon realized his true passion lay in sharing his Italian culture through its cuisine. By partnering with a friend, he opened a restaurant in Rouen, Quebec. However, in 1970, he set off on a new adventure to Timmins. On his journey, he stumbled upon Kirkland Lake and instantly felt it was the perfect spot to plant his roots and start a family. That same year, he launched Dino's Pizzeria. It was the first pizzeria in Kirkland Lake. His mission? To spread the love of authentic pizza far and wide. Salvatore worked tirelessly to establish Dino's not just as a successful eatery, but as a cornerstone of the community. And it worked, to some extent at least. It became one of the most popular tavern-style pizza eateries of its time, specializing in thin-crust pies that delighted patrons from just about everywhere. But even that wasn't enough to save them from the fate that befell the next and final pizza chain on our list, 20 Pasquale's Pizza. Most people will remember Pasquale's for their Coral Springs outlet that was opened in 1988, but the restaurant had actually been operating long before then. In 1968, George Senior Pasquale started in the restaurant business at the young age of 16, working as an apprentice for his mentor, Bruno Calandria, at Bruno's Pizza Town in Paramus, New Jersey. By 1974, with $400 in his pocket and a lot of IOUs, George Sr. opened the original Pasquale's, a 1,600 square foot restaurant that could seat 40 people. The restaurant was named after his father, Pasquale Marone. 10 years later, in 1984, George expanded the family business and opened his second store in Bricktown, New Jersey, to a slightly larger property that could 60 patrons. The slow but steady success was largely because they always used the best quality ingredients to make all of their dishes. Their menu, too, included wide a range of Italian-American staples. Yes, it was named Pasquale's Pizza, but the menu also often featured items like pasta, subs, stromboli, salads, and appetizers such as garlic bread and wings, and their prices were pretty affordable too, so anyone could eat there. Unfortunately, try as they did to satisfy customers' wants, they eventually got edged out of the pizza business by stronger competitors, and today only have around 4 locations all over America. Well, there you have it, 20 pizza chains from the past that couldn't quite keep up with the changing tastes or the competition. Anyway, do you have any memories of these forgotten pizza chains or others that slipped into history? Tell us in the comments. And don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more nostalgic food journeys. Until next time.